So in this January transfer window, it seems like Arsenal are really pushing for the signing of MUDRYK from Shakhtar Donetsk, who's a left winger who could also play on the right as well, and he's literally only just turned 22 with his birthday being on the 5th of January, and at the moment it seems like Arsenal value him around the £60 million mark after having a £55 million bid rejected. They are trying to put in a few clauses where they pay in instalments, however it looks like Shakhtar Donetsk are going to demand at least £85 million, citing Antony's £85 million move from Ajax to Manchester United in the summer as a benchmark. Now ironically, even though I do think Manchester United massively overpaid for Antony, this is actually one of the unforeseen benefits of that move, as it's completely inflated the market, meaning that now when United's rivals are looking to also bring in wide attacking midfielders, they are now going to have to pay a substantial amount more than they would have done in the summer. But with both Antony and MUDRYK's names being floated around together, the question came into my head: should Manchester United have signed MUDRYK over Antony? But before I go any further, let me tell you why you should consider downloading the OneFootball app, because it's become my all-in-one place for keeping up to date with the latest football news, whilst also being able to follow Manchester United specifically, giving me access to all the latest news, videos and articles. It's also the best place to keep up to date with any live football, as during the World Cup they had a live ticker for any updates on the match, confirmation for the lineups as well as a rating for each player, and also all the team stats you need as well to get a better in-depth view of how the game played out rather than just the goals scored. So if you want to support the channel and think you'd also be interested in looking at the OneFootball app, I'll leave it linked in the description and comments below. So MUDRYK is a similar kind of player to Antony. He's around the same age, and I do think he's at the same sort of stage of his development path. Both players are still far from the finished article and do need to improve a lot of aspects of their game, but they do have that raw ability and that underlying potential, which is obviously attracting interest. Antony being signed by Manchester United for a huge amount of money in the summer, and MUDRYK now attracting interest from both Arsenal and Chelsea. MUDRYK, like Antony, is also a natural winger, a player who is going to sit wide, look to receive the ball to feet, and look to isolate the opposition defender in a 1v1 before going past him. And I think that's why both players have attracted interest from managers who abide by the Cruyffian school of thought, who do like to use natural wingers who hold their width. Ten Hag at Manchester United and Mikel Arteta at Arsenal, and so I do think from a stylistic point of view, MUDRYK would have definitely suited Manchester United. In terms of the Ukrainian's abilities, he's a fantastic dribbler of the ball, able to receive the ball and use his acceleration combined with his close ball control to shift the ball quickly in congested areas before bursting past opposition players. And like Antony, he has the ability to receive the ball with his back to goal, under pressure from an opposition defender, and use a quick flick or a body feint to turn quickly and look to use his acceleration to burst away from the player. Antony is very good at doing this, as is MUDRYK. However, when I have watched Antony this season, whilst he is good on the turn and receiving the ball quickly and beating the opposition player, I do think that when he's able to isolate a defender in a 1v1, he does lack decisiveness, often turning back and looking to pass backwards to retain possession, rather than looking to be direct and run at his man, whereas I do feel like MUDRYK is a lot more direct with his dribbling. Both are playing on the opposite side to their strong foot, so they are obviously always looking to cut inside, looking to get into shooting and passing positions. But when I've watched Antony at Manchester United this season, even though he's a very good technical and skillful player, I kind of always get the feeling that he never has the ball 100% under control, and that he's very unorthodox with what he does, often doing things that surprise not only me but the defender as well. Whereas I do think MUDRYK at this stage of his development compared to Antony is a better technical player, being a player who I think is better in congested areas, is able to receive the ball from a long or short pass, getting it under control and out of his feet and running at the opposition player a lot more efficiently than Antony does at the moment. And I do think a massive part of this is that Antony is very one-footed. We rarely ever see him use his right foot, even if it's just to control the ball or for a pass, whereas MUDRYK has the ability to use his left as well as his stronger right foot. And I do think this makes a major difference to a player, his ability to control the ball, as obviously someone like MUDRYK, who can use both feet, doesn't have to constantly adapt his body shape to receive the ball and use his stronger foot. He can use either. And overall, I just think players who are very two-footed have a level of unpredictability that players who are one-footed just don't have. When someone like Mo Salah receives the ball, particularly when it's on the right side, you always know he's going to look to cut inside to either play a pass or get a shot away, but he very rarely does anything with his right foot. The same goes for Antony. Now, this isn't to say that players who are very one-footed can't be hugely effective. We saw with Ian Robben, who's one of the most one-footed players of all time, that he was extremely effective at cutting inside on his left foot, and even though players knew what he was going to do, they just couldn't stop it. And the same goes for Mo Salah over the past half a decade or so. Not being the most aesthetically pleasing player to watch in terms of how he moves with the ball and his overall technique, but one of the most effective and efficient wide players that you'll see. And I do think that Antony can develop into this type of player, as he's already shown he's fantastic at at shooting off his left foot when he cuts inside, whether this is when he's running through on goal in a 1v1 position as he did for his goal against Everton, or when he's looking to cut inside on the edge of the box and release a shot, as he did against Manchester City. And in my analysis video, which I am working on at the minute, which should hopefully be out sometime this week, I will be analysing the type of player that Antony could turn into, but right here, right now, I don't think he has the level of efficiency to make up for his one-footedness, and so certainly away from the box in the middle third and approaching the final third, I do think MUDRYK is much better in terms of his interplay, as well as having a greater ability to beat players in tighter areas. But even though I do think MUDRYK is a player who has much better technique than Antony, this doesn't mean he doesn't have the same level of efficiency, as MUDRYK is a fantastic shooter of both feet. When he's dribbling with the ball off the left side, he is looking to cut inside and release a hard and low driven shot from his right foot, which I do think is his specialist shot. He does prefer to hit them hard and low rather than looking to curl the ball with the inside of his foot into the far corner. But as we saw in the Champions League game against RB Leipzig, he also has the ability to shoot off his left foot, having excellent technique on his weaker side, drilling the ball hard and low across the keeper into the far corner. And so whilst if Antony had received the ball in this same sort of position on the right side, he'd have to take a few extra touches to move the ball and manufacture a shooting position on his left foot, which is nowhere near as efficient, which could allow the opposition defender to move across and close off the whole shooting opportunity as a whole. MUDRYK's ability to shoot off both feet allows him to take one touch, get the ball out of his feet and release the shot, which in many situations is going to be the difference between you getting your shot on goal and the opposition defender being able to get a block in or close down the shot completely. I actually think MUDRYK's a similar type of player to Gabriel Martinelli, a player who can sit wide and look to receive the ball to feet and then isolate his man in a 1v1, but can also look to make a run in behind his fullback and get into crossing or goal scoring positions from where he can use either foot. And I think that's a fundamental difference between Antony and MUDRYK. At the moment, I think Antony's one-footedness makes him very one-dimensional. When he gets the ball, you know he wants to cut inside and release a shot or a cross from his left foot. And he just doesn't have the same ability as MUDRYK to go down the outside on his weaker foot and put in a cross, or shoot with his weaker foot across goal. Now, because MUDRYK plays in the Ukrainian Premier League, I don't think comparing stats is actually that useful at this stage. Although he does have 3 goals and 2 assists in 6 Champions League games, and if you did watch his performances in the Champions League, particularly in the away game against RB Leipzig, you'll see that he's more than comfortable at the highest stage of European football. So let's get to the point. Do I think that Manchester United should have signed MUDRYK instead of Antony? In one word, yes. I think MUDRYK at this stage of his development is a better player than Antony. I think he's less one-dimensional, and right now I don't think Antony is showing world-class potential. I do think he can be a top-level winger, but to be world-class you need to have something different to your game. You need that consistent efficiency and output in the final third, and whilst MUDRYK is still very raw in his development, and I don't expect him to come into the Premier League and instantly start hitting 25-30 goal involvements a season, which I do think is a benchmark for most top-level, even world-class players, I do still think he's going to look like a better player when he does eventually come into the Premier League than Antony. I also in general put MUDRYK into the same sort of category as Rafael Leao and Kvaratskhelia at Napoli, as a goal-scoring wide player who I do think has world-class potential. And if you look at MUDRYK, he does actually remind me of a young Cristiano Ronaldo, playing from the left but also has the ability to play from the right, can go on either foot, has the shooting ability to score goals. He has the pace and the power of a young Cristiano Ronaldo as well as the trickery, but like Ronaldo had to, MUDRYK does need to refine certain parts of his game. I would value MUDRYK at around £60 million. I do think the fee is going to be inflated because of the Antony transfer. I personally think Antony in the summer was worth around the £40 million mark, and United massively overpaid. But just because I do think MUDRYK is a better player than Antony and that Manchester United would have been better off signing MUDRYK in the summer rather than Antony, we are talking about hindsight obviously, and I do still think that Antony can be a success at Manchester United, and I will be doing a whole analysis video on him, looking at what Ten Hag can do to turn Antony into a top class player. So if you do want to see that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications. You can check out some of my other videos in the description, give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and put your thoughts on who you think is better, MUDRYK or Antony, in the comments section below as well.